The tale unfolds in the grandeur of the Count family palace within the illustrious Seldom Kingdom. Our protagonist, Jamie Welton, awakens in his bed, haunted by the persistent recurrence of a peculiar dream. Jamie, the eldest son and the designated heir to the Seldom Kingdom's Count family, bears a secret burden. In a past life, he was Diablo Volfir, a formidable warlord sealed away by the 12 heavenly gods. As Diablo faced his sealing, he ominously foretold that upon his awakening, the gods' radiant light would fade into darkness, subjecting them to eternal suffering and compelling them to beg Jamie for release. These gods, unfazed by Diablo's prophecy, expressed anticipation for the moment Jamie would awaken. They consigned Diablo to an eternity of torment, sealing him away. Yet Diablo, after what felt like an eternity, discovered a crack in the barrier, paving the way for his reincarnation as the firstborn of the Welton family. Reborn as an infant, he now experiences the life of nobility, showered with love from his parents, a far cry from the warlord he once was. Fast forward 9 years, and Jamie Welton sighs at the prospect of yet another wearisome day. His maid enters, surprised by Jamie's early rising, and he feigns appreciation for the morning sky. Despite Jamie's lack of enthusiasm for the attention, he puts on a cheerful facade. The maid, duly impressed, informs him that his parents await him downstairs. After a swift change of clothes, Jamie descends, silently contemplating the monotonous routine that awaits him. Downstairs, the Welton family eagerly awaits Jamie's presence. His mother, Sears Bell Welton, hailing from the prestigious Bell family, beams with joy, charmed by the perceived cuteness of her children. Jamie's father, the head of the Welton Count's family and one of the kingdom's 5 revered swordmasters, is enamored with both his wife and children. The family tableau is completed by Jamie's younger sister, Sarah Welton. To the external observer, they epitomize the quintessential happy family. However, Jamie harbors a starkly different perspective, finding the carefully constructed happiness to be a tiresome facade. As the formalities unfold, Jamie can't help but retreat into introspection. Once back in his room, he lies on his bed, contemplating the ceaseless struggle to acclimate to the overwhelming affection emanating from his family. Despite the external appearances of joy and unity, the dichotomy between Jamie's external role as the cherished heir of the Welton family and his internal turmoil as the reincarnated Diablo Volfir paints a poignant picture. Growing older has brought some relief to Jamie's life in the Grand Mansion. In his early years, Jamie wanted to get sealed again, stemming from the challenge of speaking with a cute tone, a consequence, as he believed, of having a short tongue. However, amidst this internal struggle, Jamie found solace in the opulence of the mansion and the myriad activities it offered. The private library, in particular, held a special allure for him. In the midst of Jamie's contemplations, his shikigami, a supernatural creature, materialized and perched itself on his head. A sense of weakness overcame Jamie, but he quickly reassured himself that being reborn presented a unique opportunity. He crushed his shikigami, resenting the 12 gods who, in his previous life as Diablo Volfir, had sealed him away. Jamie saw them as parasitic entities still leeching off their believers, and he harbored a deep-seated anger toward their arrogance. Acknowledging the limits of his powers in an era devoid of dark magic, Jamie found comfort in the knowledge that time was on his side. Despite the absence of his formidable past abilities, he vowed to grow stronger and ultimately overthrow the 12 gods who had once held dominion over him. In the midst of these intense thoughts, Jamie's routine was disrupted by the entrance of his maid. She reminded him with a warm smile that it was time for his daily children's book reading session with his mother. The abrupt transition from his dark musings to the cheerful task at hand required Jamie to switch to a cute demeanor, something he found internally irksome. Nevertheless, he put on a facade of affection and assured the maid that he would join them shortly. As Jamie made his way to join his mother and sister for the reading session, he couldn't help but reflect on the incongruity of his internal turmoil with the external image he projected. His mother and sister greeted him with surprise, taken aback by the cuteness Jamie exuded. Instantly, they enveloped him in warm embraces, expressing genuine delight at his adorable demeanor. Seated for the reading, Jamie wore a sparkling smile as he inquired about the chosen book. His mother, seemingly charmed by his cuteness, engaged him in a lively reading session. As the story unfolded, Jamie expressed genuine enjoyment and revealed his aspirations to become a great magician, drawing inspiration from the characters in the book. His mother, appearing impressed, assured Jamie of his potential success, citing his past achievements in defeating 3 magic teachers. Jamie, however, couldn't shake off a sense of skepticism. wondering if his mother's encouraging words concealed a form of mockery. Despite this uncertainty, his mother patted his head affectionately, adding that his father would arrange for the guidance of the greatest magician to further hone his skills. Encouraged by this revelation, Jamie couldn't help but express admiration for his father's abilities. His mother, seizing the moment, attempted to divert him from his usual routine, suggesting playtime instead of heading to the library. Unyielding, Jamie politely but firmly insisted on pursuing his interests in the library. As his mother sought to hug Jamie, torn between his desire to break free and his mother's affection, relented and fell into her embrace. Yet as she implored him to forsake the library in favor of spending time with her, Jamie, with a mix of politeness and determination, he tells his mother to let him go. Entering the library, Jamie settled into a chair with a book in hand. As he closed the latest tome on mana breathing, disappointment washed over him. It didn't offer the help he sought. His contemplation was interrupted by a call for his meal, a routine that had grown tiresome, dining with his parents 3 times a day. Leaving the library and stepping into the hall, Jamie noticed an old man. Puzzled, he wondered about the stranger's identity. The old man greeted Jamie, surprising him with the tremendous amount of mana radiating from his body like a tempest. Jamie speculated that the old man was likely a 7th-class magician, intrigued by the question of how he arrived without a guide, perhaps teleportation. Considering the possibility of the old man being an intruder, Jamie hesitated. However, the man's relaxed demeanor didn't fit the profile of an intruder in a swordmaster's mansion. Seeking answers, Jamie questioned the old man about his identity and purpose. Unfazed, the old man, excited by the significant mana Jamie possessed, remarked on the son of a tiger being a tiger himself. In the old man's eyes, Jamie surpassed the average. Growing irritated by the old man's lack of a direct response and his attempt to gauge Jamie's potential, Jamie prepared to attack. Ready to unleash a spell, he observed the old man's laid-back attitude and felt the need to assert his strength. The old man, seemingly unfazed, only fueled Jamie's irritation. In response, Jamie began to ready a spell, signaling his intent to take action. The old man, impressed by Jamie's mana and intrigued by his demeanor, reciprocated by initiating the same spell. A tension hung in the air as both individuals prepared for a potential confrontation. Observing the old man mirroring his actions, Jamie's anger intensified. The audacity of the old man testing him, a figure who had once stood on the brink of defeating even gods in a past life, fueled Jamie's determination. Ready to unleash his spell upon the old man, Jamie's resolve showcased the immense power that lay within him. In the midst of an enchanted confrontation, Jamie directed the force of his magical prowess towards the elderly man, anticipation hanging thick in the air. The elderly gentleman, however, displayed a mastery that belied his age, effortlessly parrying Jamie's magical assault. The young magician, expecting his conjured energies to wreak havoc, was left dumbfounded by the old man's skillful defense. The result was far from what Jamie had envisioned. Despite the unexpected turn of events, the seasoned old man found delight in the spectacle of a 9-year-old like Jamie wielding such potent magic. Responding with a spell of his own, the elderly man directed it away from Jamie, who, recognizing that the magic was not aimed at him, stood motionless. The old man, taken aback by Jamie's lack of reaction, the magical skirmish reached an unexpected climax as Jamie's father, sensing the tension, entered the scene just in time to intercept the old man's mystical assault. Concern etched on his face, Jamie's father immediately inquired about his son's well-being. Jamie, seizing the moment, feigned weakness and burst into tears, adding an emotional layer to the already charged atmosphere. His father, angered by what seemed to be the old man's callous mistreatment of Jamie, scolded him for reducing his son to tears. Yet the elderly gentleman found amusement in Jamie's apparent shyness, seeing it as a unique reaction. As the magical energies dissipated, the room settled into an uneasy calm. They gathered around, finding solace in the ritual of sharing a cup of tea. Jamie's father, recognizing the need to diffuse the tension, revealed Jamie as the heir to the Welton family. He expressed his displeasure at the unexpected magical assault on his son, further fueling the tension between the two parties. The old man asked the Count that how much he knows about his son. The Count replies about what? Marquis Limmel acknowledged Jamie's innate genius. The Count, skeptical and still nursing his anger from the earlier assault, questioned the old man's credibility after such a display. Marquis Limmel, unfazed by the Count's suspicions, dismissed his concerns, suggesting that the Count knew little about his own son. The Count's anger persisted, but Marquis Limmel urged him to calm down, claiming to sense his aura and perhaps seeing beyond the surface of the situation. The revelation of Marquis Linmel's identity as the strongest 8th-class great magician among the living added another layer of complexity to the unfolding narrative. Jamie's father, now intrigued by the potential mentorship of such a prestigious figure, questioned the likelihood of Marquis Linmel accepting Jamie as his student. Suspicion crept into the Count's voice as he pondered whether his son lacked the necessary magical aptitude. In response, Marquis Linmel offered an unexpected explanation. He couldn't accept Jamie as his student, not due to a lack of talent on Jamie's part, but because he doubted his own ability to handle the extraordinary abilities that Jamie possessed. The revelation left the room steeped in a mixture of awe and uncertainty. The Count stood there, his mind reeling from the unexpected revelation delivered by Marquis Linmel. The seasoned magician calmly informed the Count that his son, Jamie, possessed the extraordinary ability to comprehend and read all of the Marquis's intricate magical maneuvers. It was a revelation that struck the Count with disbelief, struggling to fathom that his young son could decipher the complexities of such advanced magic. Marquis Linmel, however, exuded a certain assurance as he continued, revealing that Jamie was impervious to the influence of his own magic. The Count was further astonished when the Marquis described how Jamie had not flinched in the face of his magical onslaught, displaying an unprecedented composure that defied his tender age. According to the Marquis, Jamie's innate magical prowess had already elevated him to the level of a 3rd-class magician through his relentless self-teaching. Moreover, when accounting for Jamie's physical limitations, Marquis Linmel boldly declared that Jamie could be considered on par with, or even surpassing a 4th-class magician. The Count grappled with the weight of this revelation, recognizing that his son was no ordinary child, but possibly a prodigious force in the world of magic. Labeling Jamie as either a genius or a prodigy, Marquis Linmel conveyed a belief that such a remarkable child required no formal instruction. The Count, still trying to wrap his mind around this newfound understanding of his son's capabilities, was encouraged by the Marquis to continue supporting Jamie's growth. The Marquis went further, prophesying the potential birth of a legendary 9th-class magician, a notion that left the Count both astonished and elated. The idea that his son could achieve such a revered status filled him with a sense of pride and hope for Jamie's extraordinary future. Expressing remorse for his earlier magical assault on Jamie, Marquis Linmel shifted the conversation, forewarning the Count of an impending magical storm. The Marquis cryptically stated that this storm wouldn't merely impact the realm of magic, but would extend its reach to influence the entire world. With a swift and mesmerizing display of teleportation magic, Marquis Linmel vanished, leaving the Count to grapple with the weight of the impending magical upheaval and the remarkable destiny that seemed to await his son. The scene transitioned to Jamie's room, where the young magician, still reeling from the events that transpired, found himself fatigued. His mother, upon hearing about the altercation with Marquis Linmel, had kept Jamie confined for hours. Despite the confinement, Jamie felt a deep sense of satisfaction and awe at having witnessed actual magic. The Marquis's attack had left a lasting impression, but it was Jamie's father, Count Jamie Welton, who garnered the majority of his admiration. Reflecting on the strength displayed by his father during the confrontation, Jamie was in awe of the man he thought he knew so well. He realized that his father's prowess extended far beyond his previous understanding. The revelation stirred a newfound certainty within Jamie. His father was not just a strong figure, but one worthy of admiration and respect. Suddenly, and almost as if summoned by Jamie's thoughts, Marquis Linmel appeared in the room. The older man, observing Jamie's demeanor, questioned the young magician about the cause of his laughter. Startled by the unexpected presence of Marquis Linmel, Jamie asked why the old man was in his room. Marquis Linmel, amused by Jamie's surprise, casually revealed that he had teleported himself in. Jamie, still grappling with the shock of not noticing the seasoned magician's arrival, acknowledged that the old man was no ordinary individual. Marquis Linmel, intrigued by Jamie's distinct behavior in the presence of family compared to strangers, laughed and commented on the young magician's amusing personality. As the conversation continued, the room became a nexus of magic and mystery, where the legendary Marquis Linmel and the prodigious Jamie shared a moment in time that held the promise of an extraordinary future. Jamie found Marquis Linmel peculiar, questioning why the old man scrutinized him so intensely, especially considering they had just met. To Jamie's surprise, the Marquis produced a magical tome and handed it over. Perplexed, Jamie asked the reason behind this unexpected gift. In response, Marquis Linmel explained that the magic he had used earlier was outdated, and thus he was bequeathing Jamie with the book. Jamie felt a surge of anger, interpreting the gesture as a slight to his magical abilities. However, Marquis Limmel clarified that the tome contained magic he had personally created. Jamie would be the first to explore its contents, a revelation that intrigued the young magician. As Marquis Limmel prepared to depart, he expressed high expectations for Jamie's potential, leaving the young magician to wonder about the changes the next encounter might bring. Jamie, embracing the challenge, assured the Marquis that the results would likely exceed his expectations. Excitement fueled Jamie as he delved into the magical tome, discovering mana-breathing techniques and methods of absorbing mana into one's heart. The prospect of new and unconventional magic piqued Jamie's interest. However, the intricacies of the techniques presented a daunting challenge. The need for precision, especially in absorbing mana through the skin, forced Jamie to reconsider his initial enthusiasm. Lying on his bed, Jamie contemplated the difficulty of manipulating mana materials to achieve the required precision. The task seemed insurmountable for most, but not for Diablo Volfir, as Jamie referred to himself. With determination, he envisioned a method to absorb mana through his skin, acknowledging that he would have to feel each mana material to make it work. The uniqueness of Jamie's approach lay in his refusal to accept the conventional limitations of old techniques. While others deemed it impossible, Jamie, as Diablo Volfir, saw it as a challenge to overcome. Excitement surged through him as he envisioned the possibilities unlocked by this new perspective. Sitting up, Jamie resumed reading the magical tome, eager to explore its secrets. He decided to put his newfound insights into practice, summoning his Shikigami, Black, a one-eyed bat. Instructing Black to break down some mana, Jamie witnessed as the Shikigami shattered the mana, producing particles that floated around him. The first hurdle was conquered, breaking the mana into a size suitable for absorption through Jamie's skin. However, this method had limitations, requiring a fixed location and size. Undeterred, Jamie relied on Black, his contracted familiar, to assist him in overcoming these constraints. Black is someone who made a soul contract with Jamie. With the first challenge resolved, Jamie faced the next, absorbing the mana. Fortunately, this posed no problem for him, as his body lacked the conventional limits. Jamie could store mana in multiple places within his being, a testament to the boundless potential he believed lay within himself. In this pursuit of magical innovation, Jamie, as Diablo Volfir, forged ahead, fueled by an unyielding determination to defy the norms and push the boundaries of magical possibility. The magical tome became not just a source of knowledge, but a catalyst for Jamie's journey into uncharted territories, where the old gave way to the new, and the impossible became a realm waiting to be conquered. Outside Jamie's room, his father and the maid observe him. The Count is surprised to see Jamie's mana swirling around him. He knew Marquis had given Jamie some advice, but he didn't expect Jamie's mana to transform so quickly. The Count thinks that maybe his son has a hidden talent. He instructs the maid to let Jamie be for the day, as they never know when he might come out. The maid assures the Count that she will keep an eye on Jamie. The Count is fascinated to discover that Jamie is a magician rather than a sword user, speculating that it might be influenced by his wife's family. This surpasses the Count's expectations for Jamie. He smiles, thinking Jamie might be the ninth-class magician. The scene shifts to the next day in Jamie's room, where he has successfully performed the mana manipulation described in Marquis's book. Initially challenging, Jamie managed to move and break apart mana after a few attempts. However, Jamie is disappointed as, for now, 4th class mana is his limit. He considers it frustrating as he was close to reaching the 5th class. Black suggests that Jamie reform his body, but Jamie declines, stating that he knows his current body is young and weak. Black is disappointed, but Jamie assures him that he will try to be patient since the gods won't disappear, and he has already walked this path once. Jamie uses a spell to make Black invisible and informs him that he plans to meet his father. He instructs Black to hide his mana to avoid his father detecting him. Jamie is pleased that even he couldn't sense Black, and is confident that his father won't either. As Jamie goes outside to meet his father, the scene shifts to the Count's room, where he is talking to a man. The man thanks the Count for allowing Jinnis into his territory. The Count explains that he thought it would benefit the locals and decided to permit them. The man asks for clarification, and the Count elaborates on his decision. The Count assures the man that he has always pursued excellence and intends to make Jinnis the foremost religion in his territory. The man interprets this as the Count asserting his superiority and issuing a warning not to mistreat residents as if they were gods. Although the man had heard rumors about the Count and knows not to underestimate him, The Count suggests they end the conversation due to the man's busy schedule. They bid farewell to each other. As the man departs, the Count's expression shifts from a smile to a serious demeanor. Outside, Jamie observes the man leaving and notices the symbol of a crescent moon holding a yellow sphere, emitting impure divine power. Jamie is astonished that Janus is now in their territory. He questions his father's sudden decision to allow religion, especially Janus. Feeling restricted and with limited choices, Jamie decides he must meet with his father and start investigating that night. Jamie enters his father's office, where they both sit down. The Count inquires if Jamie has completed everything. Jamie confirms and expresses his fondness for magic. His father, deep in thought, reveals his concern that he had hoped Jamie would grow up as a normal boy. However, Jamie's extraordinary talent has made a normal life impossible. The Count reflects on the challenges of being recognized for talent and the subsequent scrutiny if growth is stunted. He questions if this is truly best for Jamie. The Count assures Jamie that he is free to quit magic if he wishes, but as long as Jamie continues, his father will support him. Jamie reassures his father, expressing his determination not to give up on magic. The Count is pleased but surprised by the level of mana Jamie possesses for a 9-year-old. He senses mana throughout Jamie's body, which astounds him, as mana is believed to be stored only in the heart. The Count asks if Jamie mastered the magic tome given by Marquis Limmel the previous day. Jamie proudly informs his father that not only did he master the magic tome, but he also addressed the issues he was facing. The Count is shocked, unable to believe the significant improvement his son achieved in just one day. He begins to think that Jamie might have the potential to become the legendary 9th-class magician. Overwhelmed with pride, the Count laughs, realizing that compared to Jamie's talent, his own seems insignificant. Jamie, puzzled, asks his father what's amusing. His father explains that he is laughing out of pride and affection, patting Jamie's head. Internally, Jamie wishes his father would stop the affectionate gestures. His father notices something on Jamie's head and asks if it's a summon. Jamie is surprised that his father can see black, as he was sure he had applied invisibility. The Count remarks that it looked too round for a bat, prompting Jamie to wonder about his father's exceptional abilities. Jamie explains that he shaped it like a bat and hit it, thinking his father would be surprised. The Count hugs Jamie, expressing immense pride and calling him a genius. Later, tired, Jamie retreats to his room, reflecting on the abundance of love and affection in their household. At night, Jamie dons a cloak and ventures outside. Calling Black, who conjures wings for Jamie, he prepares to uncover the reason behind Janus coming to his territory. Jamie flies around the land with Black's wings. In an alley, two men, Philip with purple hair and Jance with brown hair, discuss their predicament. Philip, a mid-officer of a criminal organization named Level, believes they must engage in human trafficking to survive. Jance disagrees, expressing disbelief that higher-ups would sacrifice half the organization for personal gain. He warns Philip about the consequences, as Count Welton, who loves his children, would not tolerate such activities in his territory. Philip, confident in their luck, mentions that Hanni's men are willing to carry out the plan. Jance prefers running away over snitching, adhering to underground rules. They debate their options, acknowledging the challenges they face. Meanwhile, Jamie overhears their conversation and steps forward, surprising both Philip and Jance. They inquire about Jamie's identity. Hearing them, Jamie laugh, draped in a cloak, a chilling mimicry of the Grim Reaper's foreboding presence. Jance and Philip charge toward Jamie with menacing intent, but to their bewilderment, Jamie vanished into thin air right before their eyes. Puzzled, they frantically scan their surroundings, only for Jamie to reappear with a dark aura enveloping him, casting an intimidating presence that sent shivers down Jance and Philip's spines. With an air of mystique, Jamie employed his magical abilities, probing the depths of their recent conversation. To their shock, Jance and Philip reluctantly divulged their involvement in a heinous crime, human trafficking, particularly of innocent young children. This revelation struck a nerve within Jamie, as it turned out to be the very crime that Jamie's father despised the most. Standing amidst the unfolding darkness of the revelation, Jamie couldn't fathom the audacity of these individuals. Thoughts raced through Jamie's mind, questioning the motives behind such a sinister act and whether these individuals harbored a death wish. As Jamie grappled with the realization of the depths of human depravity, a surge of annoyance mixed with anger coursed through him. Already irate at the meddling of divine forces in human affairs, Jamie found it utterly infuriating that mere mortals would exploit their own kind. The incongruity of human beings preying on each other further fueled Jamie's discontent. Struggling to comprehend the logic behind their captain's acceptance of such a malevolent proposal, Jamie couldn't shake off the suspicion that their leader was well aware of Jamie's father's vehement principles against such crimes. An uneasy feeling settled in Jamie's gut, foreseeing a morning filled with turmoil as the truth unfolded. In a decisive moment, Jamie rose from the scene, forming a magical circle around Jance and Philip. With a stern command, Jamie compelled them to head to the Count's residence and confess their sinister plans. The two, influenced by Jamie's magical authority, reluctantly agreed to comply, promising to reveal everything to the Count. As they departed, Jamie couldn't help but wonder about the twisted machinations that had led them to this point. Anticipating the impending chaos, Jamie prepared to depart, resolving to deal with the divine meddling that had riled him earlier. However, the tranquil moment was shattered as Philip and Jance were violently propelled into a nearby wall. 4 mysterious assailants materialize, leaving Jamie perplexed about their sudden appearance. Deploying magic once again, Jamie healed the battered duo, emphasizing the gravity of their situation. Their lives were temporarily spared, contingent on the successful completion of the assigned task. The assailant responsible for the abrupt assault revealed himself as Han Lee, a mid-ranking officer in criminal organization known as Livil. Han Lee ordered his men to drag the fallen individuals, including the enigmatic figure cloaked in darkness. In the chaotic aftermath of Jance and Philip being dragged towards Han Lee, Jamie's rage surged, poised for retaliation against the unfolding injustice. However, before Jamie could unleash his fury, Han Lee preemptively struck, landing several blows to Jamie's body. Seemingly undeterred, Jamie pressed on, determined to confront the impending threat. Han Lee, fueled by his own malevolence, charged forward with a fiery spell, intending to incinerate Jamie. To the astonishment of both Han Lee and his entourage, Jamie managed to switch places with one of Han Lee's underlings just as the flames erupted. The unintended consequence left one of Han Lee's men consumed by the searing blaze, a twist of fate that caught everyone off guard. As the chaos unfolded, Jamie, seizing the opportunity, materialized behind Han Lee with an air of challenge. Puzzled and disconcerted, Han Lee took a step back, unsure of how Jamie had outsmarted him. Jamie, confronting Han Lee with a pointed question about the perceived enjoyment of killing one's subordinates, shouted in anger. The perplexed Han Lee struggled to comprehend Jamie's resilience, exacerbated by the mysterious dark aura shrouding Jamie's form. Undeterred, Jamie closed the distance with Han Lee, expressing bewilderment at Han Lee's irrational behavior despite possessing only third-class mana. The confrontation escalated as Han Lee, driven by frustration, unleashed his most potent spell, Buster, a third-class explosion magic. A colossal flare of fire erupted, aimed directly at Jamie. However, to Han Lee's disbelief, Jamie displayed remarkable agility, effortlessly evading the fiery onslaught. As the flames subsided, Jamie, still unscathed, dissected the psychological dynamics at play. He articulated the vulnerability of the human mind when confronted by superior forces and professed his satisfaction in manipulating those weaker than himself. The revelation left Han Lee stunned, grappling with the reality of his own limitations in the face of Jamie's cunning. In a decisive turn, Jamie emerged victorious, defeating Han Lee in a display of magical prowess. The onlookers, including Han Lee's bewildered companions, were left dumbfounded by the unexpected outcome. Attempting to escape the inevitable consequences of their actions, Han Lee's cohorts made a futile attempt to flee. In a swift and masterful move, Jamie invoked his spell, Erasure, eliminating them in one fell swoop. Approaching the defeated Han Lee, Jamie assumed control, asserting dominance over the once formidable adversary. In a role reversal, Jamie instructed Han Lee, now subservient, to answer a series of questions. Han Lee, acknowledging Jamie as his master, submitted to the newfound power dynamic. As Han reluctantly spilled the details about the trafficked children, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling of déjà vu. The information seemed all too familiar, echoing previous encounters with the dark underbelly of society. A twinge of disappointment crept over Jamie, a sense of wasted time settling in. Despite the distressing nature of the revelations, Jamie had hoped for something more, something that would justify the investment of time and energy in this pursuit. The predicament with Han lingered. Despite Jamie's measured approach, it became apparent that Han's soul had suffered irrevocable damage. In the arcane realm, where magic and morality intersected, Jamie faced a conundrum. Though Han's physical body remained intact, his impending demise was an inescapable reality. The typical recourse, turning Han into an undead, was rendered impractical due to the irreversible decay that would follow. Jamie, acknowledging the unsuitability of unleashing undead creatures in a tranquil environment, grappled with an alternate solution. Reluctantly, Jamie absorbed all of Han's mana, hoping to glean some advantage from the situation. The infusion of magical energy came with impurities, a consequence of the constraints imposed by the limitations of the human form. Yet Jamie found a silver lining in the opportunity to absorb a substantial amount of mana, a fortunate turn of events in an otherwise perplexing scenario. As Jamie contemplated the fate of Philip and Jance, now imbued with the absorbed mana, the question arose of their sustainability in this state. Their bodies, temporarily revitalized, held a fragile grip on this bar of vitality. It was a transient state, and Jamie foresaw the inevitable return to their previous conditions. Turning to Jamie's spectral companion, Black, Jamie delved into the realm of necromancy. The dark art offered a means to command the reanimated, utilizing their bodies for Jamie's purposes. The distinction between necromancy and the resurrection of life became apparent. The beings summoned were no longer living entities. They were undead, straddling the delicate boundary between life and death. In a ritualistic fashion, Jamie bestowed a semblance of life upon Philip and Jance, transforming them into loyal servants bound to Jamie's will. With Black's assistance, Jamie successfully restored the souls of Jance and Philip back into their bodies. However, an unexpected twist unfolded as black smoke began emanating from the revived individuals. A sense of unease gripped Jamie, a feeling that something had gone awry. Doubt infiltrated Jamie's mind, casting shadows over the perceived success of the necromantic endeavor. As Black reassured Jamie that everything had gone according to plan, a seed of doubt sprouted in Jamie's mind. Suspicion cast a shadow over the assurance, prompting Jamie to scrutinize Black, wondering if something had indeed gone awry. Meanwhile, Jance and Philip, the subjects of Jamie's magical intervention, emitted disconcerting black smoke, raising concerns about their newfound state. Jamie pondered the practicality of retaining them in this condition, realizing their inability to operate under Genesis orders or navigate public spaces if the enigmatic smoke persisted. Black, attuned to Jamie's apprehension, sought to convey a crucial message. In a surprising move, Black approached Jamie to deliver the message with a cheeky bite. Jamie, momentarily angered by the unexpected nip, watched in awe as Black positioned himself atop Jance's head and voraciously devoured the black smoke enveloping both men. It was a revelation. Black possessed the ability to neutralize the ominous emissions. As Black efficiently cleared the air around Jance and Philip, Jamie marveled at the unexpected skill. The once pervasive black smoke dissipated, leaving Jamie content with the outcome. Black, however, lay tired and depleted, having expended considerable energy in cleansing the magical residue. In response, Jamie offered words of appreciation, patting Black with gratitude for a job well done. With the immediate crisis averted, Jamie contemplated the next steps. Considering whether to grant Jance and Philip individual names and consciousness, Jamie recognized the need for their awakening. As Jamie initiated the process, the two men gradually regained consciousness, bewildered by the unexpected turn of events. Jamie, aware of their confusion, decided to afford them some time to acclimate to their newfound existence. Jance, mustering courage, confronted Jamie with the burning question: was Jamie the architect of their transformation? Jamie, without hesitation, confirmed his role, and the revelation sent shockwaves through Jance. Despite Jamie's youthful appearance, an overwhelming and foreboding aura emanated from him, reminiscent of the malevolent entities Jance had only encountered in tales and ancient texts. To Jance, Jamie seemed to embody the forbidden, a creature defying the natural order, akin to a demon lord. Philip, grappling with uncertainty, openly admitted his ignorance regarding Jamie's true nature. Yet Philip couldn't bring himself to see Jamie as merely human, displaying an unusually aggressive demeanor. Observing Philip's intense eyes, Jamie's irritation grew. In response, Jamie harnessed magical power, compelling both Philip and Jance to bow their heads to the ground. Addressing Philip sternly, Jamie offered a one-time forgiveness, cautioning that any recurrence could have dire consequences, with Jamie unable to guarantee Philip's safety. Faced with Jamie's threat, Philip, visibly frightened, quickly assured Jamie that he understood and pledged not to repeat such behavior. Jamie extended the caution to Jance, underscoring the nature of their subordination through the soul-binding contract, emphasizing that their lives belonged to Jamie as an intrinsic aspect of dark magic. Clarifying his identity, Jamie asserted that he wasn't a demon lord, countering Jance's inquiry about Jamie's true nature. When Jance pressed further, asking what kind of being Jamie was, Jamie revealed himself as a dark magician. After instructing Jance and Philip to surveil the Jinnist church and gather crucial information, Jamie emphasized another task, bringing a person who might possess insights into human trafficking. Jamie intended to appoint this individual as the reporter in lieu of Jance and Philip. As the two men looked up, Jamie had already departed, prompting them to exhale a collective sigh of relief. Confused about the inexplicable events surrounding their bodies, Jance suggested they proceed with the assigned tasks, and Philip agreed, recognizing the imperative nature of Jamie's orders. Meanwhile, Jamie, accompanied by Black, expressed concern for the two men. In response, Jamie assured Black that the knot of subordination had been tightly secured, rendering disobedience impossible. Jamie believed this precaution would allow Jamie's father to independently address the human trafficking incident. Instructing Black to return home for the day, Jamie continued to navigate the intricate web of magical contracts and subordination. However, the routine excursion took an unexpected turn when Jamie collided with a passerby. Irritated and shocked, Jamie turned to confront the culprit, only to discover it was a child. The realization dawned on Jamie that despite wielding formidable magical abilities, Jamie was still just a 9-year-old. Informing the child that he would be let off this time, Jamie advised him to be more cautious in the future. The child, however, responded with frustration, unable to reconcile Jamie's childlike appearance with the mature tone of Jamie's speech. Black, sensing the tension, turned back towards the child. Intrigued by the situation, Jamie questioned Black's reaction, wondering if it stemmed from the child making fun of Black's color. Observing the kid with a serious expression, Jamie warned him, asking if he had a death wish. Terrified, the child hastily retreated to the other side, leaving Jamie to query Black about satisfaction. Black, seemingly content, conveyed a sense of fulfillment. With that peculiar incident behind them, Jamie decided to head home. Arriving at his residence, Jamie, feeling a sense of exhaustion, reflected on the day's events. As Jamie settled onto the bed, the exhaustion from expending more magical power than anticipated weighed heavily. Jamie contemplated the shift in the trajectory of Jamie's life, foreseeing an escalation in responsibilities. Up until now, Jamie had enjoyed a carefree existence. However, the intrusion of a god, particularly Janus, Jamie's least favorite deity, marked an unexpected turn. Undaunted, Jamie embraced the impending challenge, ready to confront Janus and their followers head-on, determined to reclaim and protect Jamie's territory. On the outskirts, Jance delved into the interrogation of Hanley's subordinates. The subordinates, astounded by Jance and Philip's survival, faced the piercing inquiries of Jance. The strength displayed by Jance left one subordinate in disbelief, unable to discern the presence of other members who would surely have caused a commotion if they were aware of Jance's return. The subordinates surmised that their comrades had likely been defeated, admitting ignorance about the whereabouts of their elder brother. Philip, dissatisfied with the vague responses, pressed for more information. Stressing the imperative nature of the boss's involvement in carrying out Jamie's commands and the potential insights into the Jinnist church, Philip demanded details about the boss's location with a stern expression. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, the subordinate, fearing for his life, suggested checking bars known for the boss's proclivity for women and liquor. Jance and Philip acknowledged the lead, deciding to head to the bars in pursuit of crucial information. The subordinate, seemingly relieved to escape further harm, let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. However, the reprieve was short-lived. Without warning, Jance delivered a forceful punch to the subordinate's face, rendering him unconscious. With the subdued individual in tow, Jance prepared to scour the bars for the elusive boss, exemplifying the uncompromising approach required in navigating the complex web of loyalty, fear, and survival. Simultaneously, in another part of the narrative tapestry, a child who had previously collided with Jamie approached the hideout, expecting perhaps a continuation of the casual encounter. To the child's shock, the scene inside revealed a stark contrast, lifeless bodies strewn across the hideout, a chilling tableau of the aftermath. The young individual fretted over facing repercussions for not meeting their quota the previous day. Anxiously anticipating potential confrontations with other group members, the kid decided to make a quick exit before misunderstandings could arise. With no one around to enforce consequences, they slipped away, avoiding any potential conflicts with fellow members. The following day, we returned to Jamie's room, where Jamie, despite waking up, still grappled with exhaustion from the events of the previous night. Realizing that facing the family was inevitable today, Jamie decided to dress up and head downstairs. Spotting Black, Jamie opted to temporarily cancel the summoning, mindful that Jamie's father could sense Black's presence. Descending to the dining table, Jamie greeted both father and mother, inquiring about their rest. Jamie's father wished a good morning, and Jamie sought information about the whereabouts of his mother. In a sudden, shadowy appearance, Jamie's mother emerged from behind, enveloping Jamie in a warm hug. Playfully, Jamie, wearing a cute expression, questioned where his mother had been hiding. Despite Jamie's awareness of her hiding spot, his mother indulged the inquiry, patting Jamie's head and asking if Jamie had been scared. Jamie admitted to a slight fear, but added that it was enjoyable because it afforded an opportunity to see his mother. Delighted by Jamie's response, his mother radiated happiness. Ready to proceed with breakfast, Jamie suggested they start, but his mother, brimming with excitement, insisted on one more hug. The warm embrace extended as both Jamie's mother and sister joined in, creating a heartwarming and affectionate moment within the family's morning routine.
At the dining table, Jamie's father's sudden recollection disrupted the serene atmosphere. "Come to think about it, that's happening tomorrow," he mentioned casually. The statement hung in the air, puzzling Jamie. Sensing his confusion, Jamie asked his father about the impending event, seeking clarity on the matter. His father, in response, turned to Jamie's mother and inquired whether she had informed Jamie about tomorrow's plans. Sears, Jamie's mother, grumbled as she confessed to forgetting. The weight of her words hinted at underlying concerns, and Jamie's mind immediately flashed back to a recent incident involving a peculiar full-body breathing technique. Reflecting on his mother's personality, Jamie deduced that she must have endured considerable stress due to his actions. A surge of remorse swept over him, prompting an apology to his mother. Sears, displaying a mix of frustration and concern, acknowledged Jamie's apology and reassured him that as long as nothing happened to her son, everything was okay. However, she issued a cautionary note, expressing her worries about Jamie pushing himself too hard. Recalling the incident, she painted a vivid picture of a potential breakdown in the middle of hallways, driven by the emotional toll such actions could inflict. Jamie, understanding the gravity of his mother's words, promised that he wouldn't repeat such behavior. Eager to shift the conversation, Jamie probed about the mysterious event scheduled for the next day. Sears disclosed that they were attending a grand ball, organized by Count Simon and Count Welton. This elaborate affair drew in most of the nobles residing in the northern regions of the Seldam Empire. Sears, bubbling with excitement, explained that both Jamie and his younger sister had reached an age where attending such events was expected, making this particular ball a significant milestone. As Jamie absorbed this information, a pang of realization hit him. His precious free time was about to be swallowed by social obligations. The impending social engagement loomed over him, threatening to disrupt the comfortable routine he had grown accustomed to. The scene transitioned to a few moments later, with Jamie donning a cloak and calling for his trusted summon, Black. Summoning his mount, Jamie prepared for a visit to two individuals named Jance and Philip. The purpose of this meeting was to gather information, a task he had entrusted to them. Upon arriving at their meeting place, Jamie was acknowledged as Master by Jance. Eager to assess their progress, Jamie inquired about the task at hand. Philip, however, apologized, admitting that they hadn't uncovered anything about the Zenith cult, a group that had recently surfaced. The revelation prompted Jamie to contemplate the complexity of the situation, acknowledging that even members of Livel, an esteemed group, would face challenges in retrieving information within such a short time frame. As Jamie shifted his attention to Philip, he sought an update on another task. Philip motioned towards a captive man they had apprehended. The man, with his distinctive blue hair, appeared visibly alarmed at the sight of Jamie's own blue locks. His immediate reaction suggested a fear that the Welton family had caught wind of their clandestine organization. Philip proceeded to elucidate that the man was part of the inner circle of the Livel organization. Shockingly, he possessed knowledge of an impending assassination plot against Philip and Jance by a mysterious figure named Hanenai. Despite Philip's disclosure, Jance remained skeptical of the man's usefulness, asserting that he had no valuable information to offer. Unfazed by Jance's doubts, Jamie resolved to conduct the interrogation himself. With a directive to Philip, Jamie ordered the removal of the man's gag. As the gag fell away, the captive pleaded for mercy, claiming ignorance of any pertinent information. However, he quickly pivoted, offering to divulge any details in exchange for his life. Responding with a display of authority, Jamie emitted his aura, startling the captive. With a measured tone, Jamie assured the man that his intentions were not lethal. Rather, he sought cooperation for a specific task. Without hesitation, the captive pledged his willingness to comply with Jamie's directives, even committing to locating his elusive boss if required. Seizing the moment, Jamie outlined his demands to the purple-haired man, invoking a hypnotic spell as he placed his hand upon the man's head. With a commanding voice, Jamie instructed the man to promptly report to the Count's office and disclose the organization's activities. As the purple-haired man departed to fulfill his newfound mandate, Philip and Jance observed with a mixture of pity and apprehension. Sensing their unease, Jamie reassured them that the organization would not pursue the man, as the Count would address the situation first. In light of the potential dangers looming, Jamie advised both Philip and Jance to depart the city and seek refuge elsewhere. Their compliance was swift and unwavering, prompting Jamie to question their lack of inquiry regarding his orders. With humility and respect, Philip and Jance affirmed their unwavering loyalty to Jamie as their master. They pledged absolute obedience, devoid of questions or doubts. Philip then proceeded to share with Jamie his understanding of why their master had issued those particular orders. Hearing Philip's insight, Jamie acknowledged that Philip seemed to grasp the situation accurately. Jamie couldn't shake the notion that his father might be planning to eradicate the rival organization entirely. In the grand scheme of things, the existence of individuals like Jance and Philip, who had been abandoned, might seem inconsequential. Feeling the weight of impending events, Jamie informed both Philip and Jance that he would be absent for a few days. He urged them to maintain a low profile until his return. Without hesitation, they agreed to abide by Jamie's directive. However, as Jamie turned to leave, Philip called out to him. Intrigued, Jamie paused to hear what Philip had to say. Philip expressed a deeper existential concern, questioning his own identity. He had come to terms with the fact that he was essentially a walking corpse, a reality he couldn't reverse, nor did he wish to revert to his former state. Despite this acceptance, Philip remained curious about the nature of his current existence. Jamie listened attentively, curious about Philip's inquiry. Philip elaborated on how his strength had increased significantly since his transformation, prompting him to wonder if he had become a high-ranking undead. Jamie couldn't help but chuckle at the question. Philip, puzzled by Jamie's reaction, questioned whether his inquiry was foolish. Jamie reassured him, explaining that his laughter stemmed from the novelty of the question rather than its stupidity. He remarked on the rarity of individuals adapting so seamlessly to their new state, citing Jance and Philip as prime examples. Expressing gratitude for Jamie's perspective, Philip's demeanor shifted. Jamie marveled at their acceptance of their condition, a departure from the usual narrative of despair and denial that often accompanied such transformations. In Jamie's eyes, they were rare gems in a sea of adversity. Jamie then clarified that they were simply zombies, albeit with their appearances preserved from their time before death. Their transformation had granted them strength far beyond that of an ordinary person. Upon hearing Jamie's words, Philip responded with a hint of skepticism, suggesting that they were merely ordinary zombies. Jamie, however, offered a different perspective, suggesting that their potential as zombies depended on their actions. Depending on what Philip and Jance chose to do, they could ascend to become high-class zombies. Excitement sparked in both Jance and Philip at the prospect. Before departing, Jamie reminded them to remain well hidden. Both Jance and Philip readily agreed to adhere to Jamie's instructions. However, their conversation was interrupted by Black, who disparaged Philip and Jance as pathetic. Jamie quickly intervened, defending his companions and finding their quirks intriguing. As they prepared to part ways, Jamie noted that he had lingered too long and needed to return home promptly. Later that night, a commotion erupted in the Welton household. A member of Livel, a notorious crime organization rooted in Hace, had turned against his own group. The Count postponed his departure to address the unfolding situation. Consequently, only Jamie, accompanied by his mother and sister, set off for Regan, the largest commercial city in the East. Jamie contemplated the advancements made by society since his time as Diablo. While he could easily teleport to Regan, he acknowledged the progress made by humanity over the centuries, surpassing even the mythical ages. However, he remained uncertain about the passage of time since his death as Diablo. The events following his demise had been chronicled in history books, including the invasion by demonkind and the descent of the Demon Lord. Reflecting on the centuries of peace that followed, Jamie couldn't help but wonder if he had been the catalyst for disrupting that tranquility. He scorned the incompetence of the 12 gods, who had failed to unite over the centuries. Jamie contemplated his potential to confront the gods once more, confident in his ability to defeat them more easily than before. Lost in his thoughts, Jamie found himself consumed by a dark aura, a manifestation of his inner turmoil. His younger sister, Sarah, who was peacefully asleep nearby, began to stir uneasily, sensing the tension in the air. Quickly realizing the effect his mood was having on her, Jamie made an effort to calm himself, allowing the room to return to a peaceful state. With Sarah once again sleeping soundly, then Jamie looks out the carriage and thinks about going through the ball safely. As the carriage rolled into the territory of Regan, Jamie peered out the window, marveling at the sights around him. "Regan truly is an incredible place," he remarked. His mother, Sears, nodded in agreement, explaining that Regan stood as the largest commercial city in the kingdom. She emphasized that it was nearly impossible to find another city on the continent with such a bustling economy. Jamie couldn't help but reflect on the rumors he had heard about Regan being the primary source of wealth for the Seldam kingdom. He figured that was proof enough of its significance. As they neared the castle, Jamie admitted to his mother that his heart was racing at the thought of meeting Count Simon. Sears enveloped Jamie in a reassuring hug, commenting on how adorable he looked when nervous. She promised to hold his hand tightly, soothing his anxieties. Curious, Sears asked Jamie if Count Simon was someone he looked up to, especially considering Jamie's aspiration to become a magician. Exhausted from the embrace, Jamie replied with a weary yes. Sears then proceeded to share her admiration for Count Simon, describing him as an exceptional magician who had reached the 7th class at a young age, much like Jamie's father. She explained that Count Simon was one of the 2 leaders of the Eastern noble group, alongside Jamie's father, and also held the title of Lord of Regan. His magical prowess, resembling that of a Red Lotus, earned him the moniker of the Red Lotus Magician. Rumor had it that Count Simon had vanquished thousands of enemies with his magic. Intrigued by his mother's description, Jamie asked what kind of person Count Simon was. Sears simply noted that he had impressive red hair, but Jamie's mind was elsewhere. The titles and classifications didn't hold much interest for him. What fascinated Jamie was the power behind Count Simon's magic, the ability to eliminate thousands of adversaries in a single strike. He longed to understand the intricacies of such potent magic and desired a chance to converse with Count Simon about it. Recalling his recent conversation with Marquis Lionel, Jamie couldn't help but feel disappointed. It had been brief and lacked substance, leaving him yearning for more. Jamie's mind buzzed with anticipation as he pondered the nature of his impending conversation with Count Simon during the carriage ride to the Count's castle. The anticipation only grew as the carriage pulled up to the grand entrance. Sears, Jamie's mother, emerged gracefully from the carriage, her presence commanding attention. With a gentle reminder to her children to proceed slowly, she stepped forward to be greeted by a butler from the Count's palace, who had been waiting to escort them into the castle. As they made their way through the grand halls towards their assigned rooms, Sears couldn't help but express her appreciation for Count Simon's thoughtfulness in making their accommodations. The butler, with a polite nod, guided Jamie to his room, where everything had been meticulously prepared for his comfort. It was a small gesture, but one that spoke volumes about Count Simon's hospitality. Meanwhile, the buzz of excitement filled the air as Jamie's mother emerged from her room, resplendent in her attire for the evening's festivities. The maids, bustling about, couldn't help but pause to admire her beauty, showering her with compliments that only served to heighten her radiance. Jamie, catching sight of his mother, couldn't help but add his own words of admiration, earning a delighted smile from Sears. As Sears moved to embrace Jamie, the maids intervened, cautioning Sears against hugging her son for fear of smudging her makeup. Undeterred, Sears expressed her desire to share a single embrace with her son. The maid, however, warned Sears about the potential wrinkles her dress might incur. In Jamie's mind, a silent gratitude emerged, thankful for the interruption. Just then, Sarah, Jamie's younger sister, entered the room, her own ensemble carefully chosen for the evening's festivities. Sears and Jamie both turned to greet her, their faces lighting up with pride and affection as they admired her appearance. Sarah, beaming under their praise, felt a surge of confidence wash over her, buoyed by the love and support of her family. With everyone ready, Jamie took a moment to compose himself before joining his mother and sister as they made their way to the ball. As they entered the opulent banquet hall of Count Simon's castle, Jamie's eyes widened in awe at the sight before him. The grandeur of the surroundings was breathtaking, a testament to Count Simon's refined taste and wealth. Curious about Count Simon's preferences, Jamie turned to his mother, seeking her insights. Sears, with a knowing smile, teased Jamie, promising that he would be in for a surprise once he experienced the Count's unique sense of style firsthand. Jamie couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement at the prospect, eager to discover what awaited him in the halls of one of the kingdom's most esteemed nobles. As Sears made her entrance into the hall, she was greeted with admiration and respect from the other noble ladies in attendance. They gathered around her, their voices filled with praise for her impeccable taste and elegance. Jamie, observing the scene unfold, couldn't help but notice the subtle dynamics at play as the other ladies vied for Sears' attention and approval. Reflecting on the interactions before him, Jamie couldn't help but draw parallels to similar scenes he had witnessed in the past. Foolish individuals always strive to impress those in power, Jamie observed silently, relieved that his mother, Sears, was skilled at handling such situations with grace and tact. As the bustling activity in the ballroom reached a crescendo, Jamie found himself pondering the dynamics of power and influence, a topic that often occupied his thoughts during such social gatherings. His musings were momentarily interrupted by the arrival of a butler who introduced himself as Rywal Banner, responsible for the administration of the Regenland. Rywal's announcement regarding the imminent commencement of the ball and the impending arrival of Count Simon and his family added to the air of anticipation that permeated the room. As Count Simon made his grand entrance, Jamie couldn't help but feel a wave of pressure emanating from the esteemed noble. The Count's commanding presence and aura of authority left an indelible impression on Jamie, who found himself captivated by the subtle nuances of power dynamics at play. Stepping forward with effortless grace, Count Simon extended warm greetings to the assembled guests, his words carrying the weight of his esteemed status. Observing Count Simon, Jamie couldn't help but assess him, placing him on par with Marquez Linemole, perhaps even slightly superior. The Red Lotus magician surpassed Jamie's initial expectations, adding an element of intrigue to the encounter. Jamie found Count Simon's demeanor and abilities genuinely captivating. Approaching Sears, Count Simon exchanged pleasantries, complimenting her appearance and expressing genuine concern for their well-being. Sears, in turn, reciprocated the Count's kindness, assuring him of their good health and eagerly anticipating Count Welton's arrival later in the evening, despite the complications in their lands. Turning his attention to Jamie, Count Simon's penetrating gaze seemed to scrutinize every aspect of Jamie's being. Introductions were made, and Jamie and his sister, Sarah, greeted the Count with utmost respect, their demeanor reflecting the values instilled in them by their upbringing. Count Simon's wife, standing nearby, admired the children's beauty, prompting a slight smile from the Count as he observed Jamie closely. Sensing the weight of the moment, Jamie subtly released his own aura, a silent invitation for Count Simon to assess him thoroughly. The Count's response was a knowing smirk, suggesting he had noticed Jamie's subtle display of confidence. With a casual remark, Count Simon hinted at a future encounter before gracefully taking his leave, leaving Jamie with a sense of anticipation for what lay ahead. As the evening unfolded, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling of excitement that coursed through him. Count Simon had exceeded his expectations in every way, and Jamie found himself eagerly anticipating the opportunity for further interaction and conversation with the esteemed noble. Recognizing the potential for enlightenment and growth in their exchange, we catch a glimpse of Count Simon's youngest son, Alf, as the Simon family settles at their table. Alf's curious gaze falls upon Jamie, sparking an inquiry directed at his father about the eldest son of Count Welton. Count Simon, bemused, questions Alf's interest in someone as young as Jamie. In response, Alf asserts that despite Jamie's tender age, he possesses the potential to lead the Welton family in the future. He suggests that it would be advantageous to forge a connection since they are of the same generation. Observing his son's behavior, Count Simon discerns Alf's attempts to assert himself as a leader among the noble children, subtly vying for his father's acknowledgement. Though Count Simon views Alf's actions as futile, he acknowledges Alf's intelligence and matches his rhythm to some extent. Alf, undeterred, presses his father for more information about Jamie. His mother interjects, urging Alf to foster good relations with the Welton family, given the long-standing alliance between the two families. Alf assures his mother, eliciting a smile of approval. However, behind his facade of compliance, Alf's thoughts betray a different agenda. He harbors no intention of befriending Jamie, viewing him merely as a stepping stone to securing his father's approval. Alf schemes to ensure Jamie remains beneath him, thus enhancing his own standing in his father's eyes. His older brother catches sight of Alf's calculating expression and offers an approving smile, recognizing Alf's ambitions. Meanwhile, at Jamie's table, Sears inquires about his social interactions. Jamie assures his mother that he has indeed made acquaintances. As Sears departs, Jamie reflects on his solitary nature, prioritizing productive use of his time over frivolous socializing. Stepping outside the palace, Jamie is struck by the opulence of Count Simon's expansive backyard. He marvels at Count Simon's multifaceted talents, not just in magic, but also in business acumen. Eagerly anticipating their conversation, Jamie looks forward to learning more from the esteemed nobleman. Abruptly, a voice breaks the silence, calling out to Jamie, prompting a swift reaction as he draws his magical sword. To his surprise, the source of the voice is a girl, whose sudden appearance startles him. Bewildered by Jamie's quick response, the girl queries how he managed such a feat on impulse. Jamie, taken aback by her unexpected presence, retorts, questioning her motive for approaching him without prior warning. Frustrated, the girl admonishes Jamie for his perceived discourtesy, especially towards a lady. Intrigued by the girl's sudden appearance and curious about her identity, Jamie probes further. The girl, with a mischievous glint in her eye, playfully debates whether she should reveal her name, given Jamie's earlier shock. Jamie finds her evasiveness somewhat unsettling, compounded by her enigmatic demeanor and speech. In a bid to assert his authority, Jamie conjures a magic air bullet, illustrating its potency to the startled girl. He cautions her about the potential danger posed by the spell, particularly to someone as seemingly vulnerable as her. Taken aback by Jamie's display of power, the girl hesitates, unsure of whether Jamie's threats are genuine. However, as Jamie begins to count down, the girl hurriedly interjects, pleading for more time to gather her thoughts and respond to his inquiries. Relenting somewhat, Jamie demands that she disclose her name before he unleashes another air bullet. Reluctantly, the girl reveals her identity as Ashvaye, the eldest daughter of the Viscount family of Valle and a spiritualist. In the realm of magic, a spiritualist denotes a mage who has forged a pact with enigmatic spirits born from the depths of nature. These spirits are rare within the continent, their existence considered a remarkable talent in its own right. Those who can summon and commune with these spirits may even be granted the prestigious title of a baron, acknowledging their exceptional connection to the ethereal realms. Jamie is visibly surprised by this revelation, struggling to reconcile the youthful appearance of the girl before him with the esteemed title of a spiritualist. The idea that someone so young could wield such potent magical abilities leaves Jamie astonished. Jamie contemplates Ash's revelation about her ability to move silently with the assistance of the wind spirit. It triggers memories of his own prime, where even seasoned spiritualists would have struggled to conceal their presence from him. The fact that Ash, seemingly of a similar age to Jamie, possesses such advanced stealth capabilities surprises him. He marvels at her innate talent, recognizing her as a prodigy who must have been born with a remarkable connection to nature. Upon introducing herself, Ash prompts Jamie to reciprocate by revealing his own identity. She questions his utilization of dangerous magic, catching Jamie off guard. He senses her attempt to interrogate him now that she has disclosed her own identity, noting her competitive streak. Jamie complies with her request, introducing himself as Jamie Welton, the designated heir of the Welton family. He acknowledges Ash's heritage as a member of the Vade family, expressing genuine pleasure at their meeting. Jamie recalls the historical allegiance between the Valles and the Weltons, adding an extra layer of intrigue to their interaction. Meanwhile, in the Welton territory, Count Welton confronts the leader of the notorious Lival crime organization. He recounts his tolerance of the gang's activities, deeming them merely an annoyance until they engaged in human trafficking on his land. Count Welton's patience wears thin, leading him to grant the gang's wish for annihilation. He orders his soldiers to carry out the execution the next day before making preparations for his departure to the Regan territory, where urgent matters await his attention. As Count Welton leaves, a figure concealed in the bushes observes the scene with keen interest. Disappointed by the failure of an individual named Reaver, they urge preparation for Plan B. The scene shifts back to the backyard of Count Simon's palace, where Jamie expresses his frustration to Ash. He questions why she's following him and emphasizes that their father's relationship as servants has no bearing on their own interactions. Jamie urges Ash to drop her formal way of thinking. As Jamie attempts to leave, Ash grabs his hand, halting his departure. Annoyed, Jamie demands to know why Ash is bothering him so much. Ash reveals that it's her first time meeting someone of a similar age and expresses a desire to befriend Jamie. Jamie is taken aback by this revelation, never having considered it as a reason. He wonders why Ash would need a friend, thinking it would make more sense for her to desire a servant instead. Although Jamie acknowledges the importance of friendships for children, he declares it's not his concern and tells Ash to find someone else. As Jamie walks away, leaving Ash in tears, he reflects on how friendships and close relationships can cloud one's judgment. He regrets not dismissing such emotions from the start, believing it would have spared him unpleasant experiences from his past life. Frustrated, Jamie is reminded of something unpleasant by Ash's actions. Suddenly, someone calls Jamie's name from behind, and Jamie turns to see Alf Simon, along with his friends. Noticing the red-haired boy, Jamie deduces he must be Count Simon's son. When Jamie questions Alf about why he called him, one of Alf's friends chastises Jamie for disrespecting their friend. Unfazed, Jamie casts a spell silencing Alf's friends, shocking them. Alf, surprised, asks Jamie if he silenced his friends with a spell. Jamie confirms this and commends Alf for not being as foolish as his friends. When Alf hears Jamie's arrogant demeanor, he's prompted to remind Jamie of their significant age gap, hoping to instill a sense of respect. Jamie, however, remains nonchalant, urging Alf to dispense with formalities and get to the point. Alf, feeling misunderstood, clarifies that he simply seeks a cordial conversation and didn't intend any hostility. Yet Jamie's impatience grows, dismissing Alf's words as mere chatter and insisting on his departure. Alf, taken aback by Jamie's rejection, questions if Jamie truly comprehends his stature. Jamie, surprisingly aware of Alf's lineage as the son of Count Simon, acknowledges it without hesitation. This revelation momentarily shifts the dynamics, offering Alf a glimmer of hope for a more favorable exchange. Seeking to justify his friend's behavior, Alf explains it was prompted by Jamie's informal approach. He suggests that building a rapport early on could prove beneficial, hinting at potential collaboration in their future roles as influential figures in the eastern region's nobility. However, Jamie sees through Alf's failed intentions, recognizing the underlying desire for subordination. Frustrated by Jamie's refusal to entertain the notion, Alf's patience wears thin, prompting him to assert his dominance with the summoning of his artifact. In doing so, Alf attempts to emphasize that Jamie has little choice but to acknowledge him as a superior figure. Upon hearing Alf's admission, Jamie smirks, accusing Alf of harboring intentions of using brute force all along. Alf, unapologetic, admits to altering his plans slightly due to Jamie's use of magic, but asserts his commitment to his usual methods. Jamie, disgusted by Alf's apparent duplicity at such a young age, questions whether the adults will allow Alf to act with impunity, foreseeing trouble ahead for Alf if anything goes wrong. Dismissing Jamie's concerns, Alf reassures him, citing the protective capabilities of his artifact, which cloaks their actions from prying eyes. Activating the artifact, Alf creates a barrier around them. Observing the phenomenon, Jamie remarks that it appears to be an illusionary artifact. In response, Alf questions whether Jamie possesses magical abilities, given Jamie's familiarity with the artifact. Alf then proceeds to dispel the enchantment that rendered his companions mute. Witnessing this, Jamie expresses fascination and promptly casts a spell of his own, inflicting pain. Jamie warns Alf not to deactivate the artifact, cautioning that doing so will subject everyone to excruciating suffering. Subsequently, Alf and his companions collapse to the ground, writhing in agony as their heads feel on the verge of exploding. However, just as the agony reaches its peak, the barrier unexpectedly deactivates. Alf couldn't fathom how such an occurrence could transpire. Jamie, born into a lineage of esteemed knights, had inexplicably mastered the art of magic. Alf pondered the origins of Jamie's remarkable skills, considering Jamie hailed from the renowned Welton family, renowned for their expertise in swordsmanship. As Alf mulled over Jamie's apparent talent, a sense of inadequacy gnawed at him. Departing with a resolute air, Alf vowed not to forgive Jamie. His expression stern, Alf harbored an intense determination. He refused to tolerate Jamie's talent, resolving to eradicate it entirely. With a grim determination, Alf vowed to crush Jamie's magical abilities, so that Jamie won't be able to use magic ever again. Amongst Alf's circle of friends, they often inquired about his well-being. When frustration bubbled within Alf, he urged them to cease their idle chatter and instead follow him. In the midst of this exchange, Renan, Alf's younger brother, made an unexpected appearance. Alf, surprised by Renan's sudden arrival, questioned his presence. Renan's response was heartfelt. He couldn't simply stand by when his elder brother was in distress. With a solemn gesture, Renan presented Alf with an artifact, much to Alf's astonishment. Curious about its origins and potential danger, Alf queried Renan, who dismissed such concerns, emphasizing the urgency of their current mission. Alf concurred, realizing that the source of the artifact mattered little compared to their shared objective. Confronting Jamie Welton, the scene transitions to Count Simon's grand palace, where a carriage arrives, heralding the presence of esteemed guests. Count Simon himself greets Count Welton with warmth, prompting Count Welton to express disbelief at Simon's personal reception. As they retire to a private chamber, Count Welton inquires about the success of the recent party, to which Count Simon responds with customary assurance. Count Simon proceeded to share with Count Welton the news of his recent encounter with Count Welton's son. Intrigued, Count Welton wasted no time in probing Count Simon's impressions of Jamie. Count Simon's response was nothing short of astonishment. He found Jamie to be truly remarkable. In fact, he went as far as to declare Jamie as not only surprising but possibly the most talented individual he had ever encountered. Count Welton, seeking further insight, questioned whether Jamie exhibited significant talent in Count Simon's eyes. Count Simon's response was emphatic. He believed Jamie to be unparalleled, perhaps the greatest prodigy in history. Count Welton revealed that Marquis Rinmel had expressed similar sentiments upon meeting Jamie, much to Count Simon's surprise. As their conversation unfolded, Count Welton disclosed his awareness of Jamie's exceptional abilities from a young age, though he had not anticipated the extent of it. Thus, he had approached Marquis Rinmel, believing that someone with Jamie's innate magical talent should be guided to become a mage, for the betterment of themselves and the world. Count Simon agreed, acknowledging the remarkable fortune Jamie possessed in having Marquis Rinmel as his mentor. Count Welton somberly informed Count Simon that Marquis Rinmel had declined his request. Count Simon, understanding Marquis Rinmel's decision, expressed his belief in Jamie's unrivaled brilliance. He envisioned Jamie challenging himself to become a legendary 9th-class mage, a feat that would undoubtedly elevate him to the status of a true legend. Count Simon confessed to Count Welton his envy of Jamie's innate talent, yet also his profound curiosity about the limits of Jamie's power as the supreme wizard. Count Welton was taken aback by this revelation. Reflecting on humanity's place in the world, Count Simon lamented its relative weakness compared to beings like dragons and high elves. He acknowledged the crucial role of swordmasters like Count Welton in maintaining human civilization. However, he posited that the emergence of a 9th-class mage could shift the balance of power, even challenging the supremacy of dragons and magic. Count Simon fervently expressed his desire for humanity to ascend as the masters of the world, a sentiment he held with unwavering conviction. Count Welton rebuked Count Simon's assertion as arrogance, to which Count Simon responded with a calm acknowledgement. He suggested that Count Welton, too, was privy to the forgotten history, a narrative shrouded in secrecy across the continent. Count Welton found himself at a loss for words. The forgotten history, an enigma known only to a select few, dated back some 10,000 years, erased by a mysterious incident. This disappearance remained a testament to the withholding of knowledge by extraterrestrial transcendence, leaving humanity vulnerable. Count Simon revealed his plan to amass power, not out of ambition, but as a safeguard against the repetition of history's vanishing act. He aimed to prevent the unknown forces from dictating human destiny once more. With this weighty exchange concluded, both counts bid each other farewell and retreated to their respective chambers. Meanwhile, in Jamie's room, Count Welton pondered the implications of Jamie's prodigious talents. As a parent, he couldn't help but feel concerned for his son's future. To Count Welton, Jamie was simply a cherished, affectionate child. He resolved to do everything in his power to nurture Jamie's growth into a morally upright individual, despite the lofty expectations placed upon him. The scene transitions to the opulent palace, where nobles have gathered for an ongoing party. Jamie, seated pensively, wonders if his father was upset the previous night. Approaching him is Ash, who inquires about Jamie's well-being. Jamie curtly dismisses Ash, reminding them that their conversation had concluded the day before. Ash then summons her sister, Rebecca Valle, the eldest daughter of the esteemed Viscount family of Valle. Jamie is taken aback by Rebecca's presence, for she is none other than Jane, the woman he loved in his previous life. Jane had met a tragic end at the hands of the gods, leading to Jamie's transformation into the emotionless monster known as Diablo. Jamie never anticipated encountering Jane in a younger form. Suddenly, Alf bursts in, clutching an artifact in hand. He declares his intent to confront Jamie then and there. With a swift motion, Alf unleashes a fire spell towards Jamie, who reacts instantly, neutralizing the attack with his own magic. Alf is stunned to witness Jamie effortlessly blocking his 6th-class magic. However, Jamie, consumed by anger, retaliates with a spell that encases Alf's body in ice. Just as tensions reach a boiling point, Count Welton intervenes, urging Jamie to regain his composure. With the immediate danger diffused, Jamie collapses, leaving Count Welton astonished by the realization that Jamie had truly intended to confront Alf. Initially, Count Welton questioned whether he had misjudged the situation, but he couldn't deny the truth. Jamie was prepared to take down Alf, and Count Welton couldn't have intervened in time to stop him. Count Simon marvels at Jamie's prowess, noting that while Alf's power may pale in comparison to his own, had Alf activated the artifact, he could have easily defeated Jamie. Yet, Jamie's swift reaction to block Alf's attack showcases his exceptional abilities. Count Simon reflects on how Jamie may be the one to fulfill his long-held dream of becoming a 9th-class mage. Amidst the aftermath, Alf's mother accuses Jamie of attempting to harm Alf. Jamie's mother, with a stern expression, corrects her, asserting that it was Alf who initiated the attack. Count Simon promptly apologizes to Madame Welton and Count Welton on Alf's behalf. Grateful for the apology, Jamie's mother thanks Count Simon and informs him that the Welton family will retire to their chambers first. Count Simon acknowledged Count Welton's understanding of the situation before extending an apology to all present at the party. With a firm tone, he declared the festivities concluded and instructed everyone to return to their rooms. As the guests dispersed, Alf's mother confronted Count Simon, questioning his actions toward their son. Count Simon's response was stern. He dismissed her protests as nonsense, leaving Alf's mother in disbelief. Later that night, in a more private setting, Count Simon confronted Alf about his behavior. With a grave expression, Count Simon pressed Alf to explain himself, emphasizing the negative impact Alf's actions had on Count Simon's reputation, as well as that of the Eastern nobles and the entire kingdom. Alf, feeling intimidated, confessed that Jamie had provoked him. Count Simon then inquired about the artifact Alf had used, prompting Alf to reveal that Renan had given it to him. In response, Count Simon summoned Renan, setting the stage for further revelations. Renan entered Count Simon's office, noting his brother's presence with a tinge of frustration. He couldn't fathom that Alf, his elder brother, had failed in his attempt to confront Jamie Welton. Renan concealed his disappointment, opting to maintain an air of innocence for the moment. With a smile, he inquired about the reason for his father's summons. Count Simon wasted no time in questioning Renan about whether he had given Alf the Phoenix race. Renan admitted to it, citing Jamie's mistreatment of Alf as his motivation. However, Count Simon saw through Renan's facade, accusing him of manipulating Alf for his own ends. Shocked by his father's accusation, Renan protested, but Count Simon remained resolute. In a candid moment, Count Simon informed both Renan and Alf that he had no interest in them. Despite being his sons, they lacked the talent he had hoped for. This revelation left Renan and Alf to ponder their father's disappointment. However, Count Simon remained astute to Renan and Alf's intentions, despite their attempts at deception. With a decisive tone, he addressed them both, challenging them to prove themselves worthy of his attention through genuine merit rather than futile schemes. As Count Simon took his leave, he instructed Renan and Alf to apologize to Jamie Welton at the break of dawn, urging them to seek Jamie's forgiveness until it was granted. Alf, frustrated by the prospect of facing Jamie again, turned to Renan, questioning whether he would also apologize. Renan remained silent, inwardly grappling with his father's expectations. Determined to prove himself, Renan resolved to meet his father's challenge. Meanwhile, in Jamie's room, his mother watched over him as he slept. She couldn't shake the realization of the genuine killing intent directed at Alf, a mere 9-year-old. Puzzled by the circumstances that led to Alf possessing such a dangerous artifact, Jamie's mother pondered the events of the evening. Count Welton entered the room and gently inquired about his wife's well-being, expressing his readiness to fulfill her wishes. Jamie's mother informed him that Count Simon had promptly apologized, and she didn't wish to escalate tensions among the northeastern nobles over the incident. Additionally, they both believed that Alf had been severely reprimanded. With their discussion concluded, Count Welton and Sears, his wife, left the room. Meanwhile, Jamie contemplated his parents' concerns and his own actions during the confrontation with Alf. He acknowledged his inability to restrain himself in that moment. Yet, he also pondered the possibility of Jane's reincarnation. To Jamie, it didn't seem far-fetched, considering his own reincarnation after 10,000 years. However, he realized that Jane's lack of recognition suggested she didn't retain memories of her previous life. This revelation left Jamie puzzled, as he considered the implications of their simultaneous reincarnations. Jamie pondered whether the circumstances surrounding his life were governed by fate or orchestrated by some higher power. In the midst of his contemplation, Black approached him, questioning whether the 12 gods were aware of Diablo's reincarnation as Jamie. Jamie dismissed the notion, asserting that if the 12 gods had known, they wouldn't have left him alone. Determined to unravel the mysteries surrounding his past, Jamie resolved to reunite with Jane. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit room, a cloaked figure spoke of the shifting tides in the world of magic. With a sense of urgency, the cloaked man penned a message detailing Jamie Welton's emergence as a remarkably gifted magician, dispatching it via a fleet of pigeons. As the pigeons soared into the sky, Jamie strolled through the tranquil backyard, his mind abuzz with thoughts of destiny and the enigmatic forces at play in his life. In the tranquil aftermath of Count Simon's party, Jamie remarked to Black about the peaceful atmosphere, noting the departure of most guests as it was the final day of the event. Suddenly, Jamie's senses tingled, prompting him to scan his surroundings for the source of his unease. Expanding his mana, Jamie discerned Rebecca conversing with a water spirit nearby. Rebecca was taken aback by Jamie's unexpected presence, questioning his appearance. Upon seeing Rebecca, Jamie's thoughts drifted to Jane, evoking a somber expression. Concerned, Rebecca inquired about Jamie's melancholy demeanor, surmising that he was still reeling from the events of the previous day. Then Rebecca hugged Jamie, and Rebecca tells Jamie that everything will be all right. Moved by Rebecca's empathy, expressing gratitude, Jamie affirmed his well-being to Rebecca. She shared a lesson her father had imparted, that sharing burdens lessens their weight. Rebecca confided her own sadness at being unable to continue their conversation from the day before, emphasizing the importance of companionship during trying times. Rebecca expressed her gratitude for the time they spent together. Jamie mirrored her sentiment, noting the coincidence of their shared thoughts. Rebecca's joy was evident at their connection. Observing her, Jamie mused that Rebecca was distinctly different from Jane, a realization he found comforting. He remarked on the Bale family's tradition of contracting with wind elementals, prompting Rebecca to reveal her own desire to form such a bond. However, despite her natural affinity for the spirits, the wind elementals rejected her attempts to make a contract. Despite this setback, an Undine eventually appeared to Rebecca, affirming her destiny to forge a contract with the spirits. However, Rebecca confessed that she had hastily made the contract without consulting her father, a decision she now regretted. Jamie contemplated the significance of Rebecca's revelation, considering the involvement of the Elemental King in her destiny. The contract with the Elemental King was unlike any other elemental bond. It was a soul contract, binding them to each other's lives. Jamie speculated that when Jane's soul reincarnated as Rebecca, the Elemental King would have taken notice. Curious, Jamie queried Rebecca about her father's reaction to her impromptu contract. Rebecca confessed that while her father didn't scold her, he appeared disappointed. Jamie reassured her that such a contract was extraordinary, a rare occurrence where an elemental sought out an individual for a bond. Expressing regret that it wasn't the elemental Rebecca had hoped for, Jamie emphasized the significance of being chosen by the water elemental. Encouraging Rebecca to believe in herself, Jamie's words resonated with her, eliciting gratitude. Jamie, in turn, thanked Rebecca for their time together before departing for the palace. Upon entering, Jamie found Alf and Rhiannon waiting for him. Perplexed by their presence, Jamie listened as Alf apologized for his previous actions. Upon hearing Alf's apology, Jamie surmised that Count Simon had compelled Alf to make amends. With newfound understanding, Jamie turned his attention to Rhiannon, questioning his presence. Alf introduced Rhiannon as his younger brother, prompting Jamie to inquire why Alf had brought Rhiannon along. Jamie speculated if Alf was too intimidated to apologize alone. Renan revealed that he was the one who had provided Alf with the artifact, inciting Jamie's anger. Assessing Renan's mana, Jamie acknowledged his considerable talent, far surpassing Alf's. Renan's wit also caught Jamie's attention. Drawing closer to Renan, Jamie was informed that Renan was leaving, having offered his apology alongside Alf. Frustrated by Renan's seemingly nonchalant attitude, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that Renan looked down on him. He noted Renan's absence from the previous day's events, speculating that Renan deemed himself superior to his father. Jamie harbored concerns that leaving Renan unchecked could lead to further trouble. Drawing closer, Jamie confronted Renan, warning him of the consequences if he was indeed responsible for the wrongdoing. With a surge of magic, Jamie cast a spell, leaving Renan bewildered as his body began to chill, as if on the brink of freezing. Facing Renan with steely determination, Jamie offered him one last opportunity to express genuine remorse. Terrified by Jamie's display of power, Renan mustered an apology, conceding to his wrongdoing. Then the scene shifts to the next day outside the palace. As everyone finally departed from the palace, Jamie felt a sense of relief knowing he was heading home. Count Simon approached him, remarking on Jamie's apparent good mood. Jamie quickly clarified that he was simply relieved to be returning home and resting. Count Simon expressed regret that they hadn't had a chance to chat, and Jamie echoed the sentiment, admitting he had been looking forward to speaking with Count Simon. Count Simon inquired if Jamie wished to stay longer, but Jamie declined, citing his overwhelming exhaustion and the pressing need for rest. Count Simon acknowledged Jamie's fatigue and hinted at the growing attention Jamie was attracting in the magical world. Jamie acknowledged this awareness, prompting Count Simon to remark on Jamie's self-awareness. Jamie affirmed that he did indeed understand his own significance in the magical community. Jamie informed Count Simon that he had administered punishment to Renan. Count Simon responded that he had anticipated such action, noting Renan's demeanor since the previous day. Jamie questioned whether Count Simon was angry at him for punishing Renan, but Count Simon assured Jamie that Renan had merely faced the consequences of his actions, which didn't warrant anger. Jamie then suggested that Renan displayed considerable magical talent and proposed the idea of teaching him. Count Simon, however, asserted that he was well aware of Renan's abilities, dismissing them as insignificant. Undeterred, Jamie argued that with proper training, Renan could potentially reach Count Simon's level of skill. Jamie pointed out that Renan's inability to express his talent was due to the influence of those around him, placing blame on Count Simon for not recognizing Renan's potential. Jamie contrasted Renan's hidden talent with Alf's more ordinary abilities, leading Count Simon to question whether he had misjudged Renan. Count Simon marveled at Jamie's revelation, realizing that Jamie had uncovered talents in his son that even he, an 8th-class mage, had failed to recognize. It felt as though a great mage stood before him, validating Jamie's discernment. Jamie speculated that perhaps Count Simon himself could break through his own barriers with his son's assistance, surprising Count Simon with the notion. As Jamie prepared to depart, he cautioned Count Simon not to take his words too seriously, dismissing them as those of a mere child. However, as Jamie left, Count Simon couldn't help but smile, feeling a sense of regret at the missed opportunity. Later that night, Jamie, cloaked in black, ventured into the forest with Black by his side. There, he met with Jance and Philip, urging them to share their findings. Philip revealed that the Zenith Church had been performing altruistic acts throughout Heath, providing aid to the needy without seeking payment, offering food and shelter to those in need. The Zenith Church had been garnering widespread admiration, thanks to their altruistic efforts. Recently, they had even established an orphanage, further enhancing their positive reputation. Jamie queried Philip about when the Zenith Church had begun their activities. Philip informed him that it was right after Count Welton dismantled the criminal group Reaver 2 months prior. Following this event, the Zenith Church had initiated their missionary work, reaching out to the impoverished. Initially, the citizens had paid little heed to their presence. However, through continued acts of kindness and mercy, the people gradually began to rely on the Zenith Church. Eventually, many of them became devout followers, elevating the church's status in Heath to an unprecedented level of reverence and respect. Shocked by this revelation, Jamie couldn't reconcile the benevolent image of the Zenith Church with his understanding of their true nature. He doubted that the church would engage in such charitable endeavors without ulterior motives. Jamie posed a thought-provoking question to both Philip and Jance. Could war and peace coexist? Confused, they both answered with a resounding no. However, Philip added that he believed the two were intricately linked. Jamie nodded in agreement, affirming that this notion was precisely what the Zenith Church represented. He expressed his conviction that the church was using its altruistic acts as a guise for more clandestine operations. Jamie urged Philip and Jance to delve deeper into the church's activities and uncover their true intentions. The scene shifts to Zenith Church Orphanage, where a young boy named Ricky is receiving heartfelt compliments from the priest. The priest praises Ricky's hard work and reassures him that, despite his difficult past, he no longer needs to worry. Ricky, who has been at the orphanage for a month and a half, beams with happiness at these words. The orphanage has become a sanctuary for him, a stark contrast to the harsh life he faced on the streets with his younger sister, Anna. Without the orphanage, Ricky knows they might not have survived. Anna, who is blind, and Ricky were abandoned by their parents and left to fend for themselves. To protect his sister, Ricky resorted to desperate measures, committing various misdeeds. Life on the streets was a constant struggle, filled with indifferent adults and relentless hardships. The Zenith Church was the first to offer them a lifeline, and that day marked the beginning of their new life. As Ricky returns to Anna, he feels a profound sense of gratitude and hope for their future. Ricky wants to spread the happiness he has found through God's grace by becoming a priest and sharing this miracle with others. As he dreams of his future, the other children at Zenith Orphanage excitedly tell Ricky and his sister that their friend Shino has been chosen by God for a special purpose. Shino will be leaving for the main church next week to begin his training to become a priest. Hearing this news fills Ricky with excitement and inspiration, as he sees a path to his own aspirations and a way to share the love and hope that has transformed his life. The scene shifts tonight, where we see Jamie flying around the city. Jamie turns to Black and says they are almost at their destination and should descend. As they land, Jamie spots a knight lying on the ground and is taken aback. Sensing a strong holy energy from the knight and noticing his impressive sword, Jamie deduces that this must be a high-ranked cleric. Confused, Jamie wonders why a holy knight is sprawled here and contemplates whether this knight might be trouble. As Jamie approaches, the knight suddenly grabs Jamie's leg, startling him. The knight, in a weak voice, says he's hungry. Jamie, finding the situation unexpected and somewhat amusing, decides to leave the knight and departs. The scene then shifts to the palace, where Jamie is astonished to see the same knight from the previous night sitting at Jamie's family dinner table, eating heartily. The knight expresses his gratitude, stating that without Count Welton's help, he might not have made it. Jamie, still processing the turn of events, watches the knight with a mixture of curiosity and surprise. Hearing this, Count Welton states that he didn't do much, crediting his troops for bringing the knight back. The holy knight, named Ras, insists that the soldiers are still under Count Welton's command, so the count deserves thanks. Jamie feels increasingly uncomfortable and can't understand why his parents are treating this knight so kindly. Count Welton then mentions that Ras said he belonged to the Pyro Church. Ras confirms, saying he serves the goddess of mercy, Pyro. Count Welton adds that his wife, Sears, was quite surprised to hear this. Sears nods, agreeing that she was indeed very surprised. Ras, sensing something, asks Sears if there's a problem. Sears asks Ras if he happens to know Bishop Sapphira. Ras's eyes widen as he inquires if Sears could be from Afton. Sears corrects him, stating she is from the Bell family. At this revelation, Ras suddenly stands up from his seat and greets Sears respectfully. Jamie is surprised by Ras's reaction and thinks about how the Pyro Church exists in Afton, where the Bell family resides, but that alone shouldn't explain Ras's prostration before his mother. Considering that someone Ras would show such respect to would likely be at least a bishop, Jamie is puzzled. In situations like this, Jamie turns to his father, putting on a cute face and asking why the knight is greeting his mother that way. Count Welton responds that it's a long story and promises to explain it to Jamie later. Jamie feels disappointed, realizing that even acting cute didn't get him the information. He thinks that if the Bell family has close ties to the Pyro Church, it could be problematic, especially since Ras is someone Jamie might eventually have to eliminate. Count Welton then asks Ras how he ended up here, noting that as far as he knows, the Pyro Church shouldn't have any business in the eastern region. Ras, still standing respectfully, prepares to explain his presence. Count Welton asks Ras if he is here to expand the Pyro Church's influence. Ras, surprised, explains that he was pursuing someone and ended up here by chance. Intrigued, Count Welton inquires who Ras is pursuing. Ras reveals that he is chasing someone engaged in unspeakable and atrocious experiments, the infamous Chimera Creator. Stunned, Count Welton asks if the Chimera Creator is in haste. Ras confirms but adds that most of the details are top secret, even within the Pyro Church, and he cannot divulge them. However, Ras offers to share more information if Count Welton agrees to listen to his requests and form a contract with him. Count Welton asks if Ras is requesting his help. Ras responds that if Count Welton, a sword master, were to assist, it would be a tremendous help. Meanwhile, we catch a glimpse of the Chimera Creator, who conducts horrifying experiments, creating chimeras from various creatures. Despite their monstrous creations, the Chimera Creators themselves are treated worse than most criminals. At the core of a chimera is a human. While there could theoretically be Chimera Creators who don't use humans, none are known to exist. Count Welton tells Ras that although he can't promise constant support, he cannot ignore this situation due to his in-law's relationship with the Pyro Church. He agrees to help Ras, making Ras visibly happy and grateful. Count Welton then asks why the Pyro Church is after the Chimera Creators and why they haven't sought help from the kingdom. Ras explains that while the kingdom would likely assist, the Pyro Church's prestige would suffer greatly. Moreover, the Chimera Creator they are pursuing has eliminated over 10 holy knights. Hearing this, Count Welton remarks that it means these chimeras can wield holy power. Ras nods, confirming the danger and gravity of their mission. The scene shifts to the garden outside, where Jamie begrudgingly anticipates tea time with his sister and mother. Both call for Jamie eagerly, and he joins them at the table to sip his tea. Sears notices Jamie's curiosity and asks what he's thinking about. Jamie hesitates before asking why Ras knelt before his mother. Sears smiles knowingly, acknowledging that Jamie was bound to ask about the connection between her family and the Pyro Church. She reveals that Jamie's grandfather, whom he never met, was a savior of the Pyro Church. Jamie is taken aback by this revelation. Sears continues, explaining that in the past, when the Pyro Church was robbed of a crucial artifact, Jamie's grandfather played a pivotal role in helping them recover it during the Portsmouth Garden incident. This incident involved the followers of the Demon King attempting to use the church's sacred relic to summon their leader, only to fail. Jamie turns to his mother in disbelief, asking if their family was directly involved in such a significant event. Sears tells Jamie that her grandfather passed away while trying to prevent the summoning of the Demon King. As a gesture of gratitude, the Pyro Church bestowed upon the Bell family the title of Archbishop and vowed to treat them and future generations as honorary bishops for the next century. Hearing this, Jamie realizes why his mother seemed a bit melancholy, and he wonders if she was close to her grandfather. Being treated as bishops by the Pyro Church might seem like a ludicrous reward, but Jamie understands the significance. It was their only sacred relic, after all. Jamie sees this as an advantage and resolves to use the influence of the Pyro Church to its fullest extent. While Jamie knows he'll eventually have to confront Pyro, for now, leveraging their power could be strategically beneficial. The scene shifts to Guinness Church, where the priest gathers the children of the orphanage to announce that their brother Shino has been chosen by God to depart today. Shino's face lights up with joy upon hearing this news. Meanwhile, Ricky and Anna are equally delighted that their brother Shino is finally heading to Mount Chongban. Ricky and Anna approach Shino to bid him farewell. Shino is overjoyed to see them and mentions that the trip was so sudden he feared he wouldn't have a chance to say goodbye. Ricky reassures Shino, mentioning that he heard from the priest that Ricky will join him there soon. Shino expresses his excitement, telling Ricky to hurry and join him at Mount Chongban. As Shino leaves, Ricky feels inspired, resolving that one day he too will become a priest. The scene then shifts to a carriage where the priest informs Shino that they have arrived at their destination. Shino is taken aback when the priest announces they have arrived at Mount Chongban. He can't believe they haven't traveled far at all. As Shino steps out of the carriage, he voices his concern to the priest that they might be at the wrong place. However, the priest reassures Shino to trust him and leads him into a basement. Feeling uneasy, Shino expresses his discomfort to the priest, who then informs a bishop of Shino's arrival. Shino, now visibly scared, questions the bishop, asking if he's really chosen by God, considering he saw a monster at the entrance. The bishop assures Shino that he was indeed chosen. Confused and fearful, Shino asks why he's in such an ominous place instead of Mount Chongban. Suddenly, the bishop's form transforms into a monstrous shape, declaring that Shino will soon become a fine chimera. The scene then shifts to the Haste territory, where Jamie is showing Ras around, introducing him to the sights of the region. Jamie feels frustrated having to act as Ras's guide. Earlier that morning during tea time, Count Welton had asked Ras if he would like to tour the Haste territory, to which Ras eagerly agreed. Count Welton then assigned Jamie the task of being Ras's guide. While Ras was delighted by the idea, Jamie was far from pleased with the arrangement. Reluctantly, Jamie became Ras's tour guide. Now, in the present moment, Ras is surprised to see that despite being only 9 years old, Jamie shows no signs of exhaustion after a full day of walking. Not only that, but Jamie seems to have a remarkable memory for all the details of their tour. Ras begins to think that Jamie has the potential to rise to at least an executive position or higher in the future. Ras realizes why Count Welton chose Jamie for the job. Grateful for Jamie's guidance throughout the day, Ras thanks Jamie sincerely for making the sightseeing tour of Haste territory such an enjoyable experience. Jamie, reflecting on the day, admits that even though it had been a while since leaving the house, they had also enjoyed the sightseeing experience. After they finish sightseeing, Ras suggests they head home. Jamie declines Ras's offer of a handshake, opting instead to ask him a question. Ras agrees, urging Jamie to ask right away. Jamie cuts to the chase, questioning Ras about what he was discussing with Jamie's father yesterday. Ras is taken aback by Jamie's directness, expecting Jamie to ask about something else, like the role of a holy knight. Ras explains to Jamie that he and Count Welton were discussing how Jamie will grow up to be more handsome. Jamie, feeling frustrated, tells Ras not to lie. Ras insists that's exactly what they discussed, but Jamie dismisses it, saying even a child wouldn't believe such a claim. Sensing Jamie's distrust, Ras apologizes for misleading him. As they prepare to leave, Jamie senses that something significant must be happening in Haste, prompting Ras's interest in sightseeing the territory. Jamie's mind races with questions about what might be unfolding. Despite Ras's repeated apologies, Jamie continues to ignore him. Instead, Jamie informs Ras that there's one more place they haven't visited yet, the Guinness Church's Haste branch. As they arrive at the entrance of the Guinness Church, Ricky, who is outside cleaning, immediately recognizes Jamie. He remembers Jamie from the night they crossed paths when Jamie was wearing a cloak. Ricky calls out to Jamie in surprise. Jamie is taken aback, realizing there was no point in changing his hair color as Ricky recognized him right away. Ricky runs towards Jamie, asking if he changed his hair color. Suddenly, a carriage approaches from another direction, heading straight towards Ricky. Ras moves to help Ricky, but Ricky is frozen in fear, believing this might be the end. Ras fears he won't reach Ricky in time. Just in the nick of time, Jamie leaps into action. He casts his chain arena spell, creating a barrier that blocks the path of the carriage's horses. Ras manages to save Ricky just in time, using his surprise at Jamie's magical ability. Ricky, overjoyed at being rescued, gratefully embraces Jamie. Meanwhile, Ras is astounded by the spell Jamie used, realizing it surpasses the abilities of most mages Ras has encountered. He ponders how powerful Jamie could become in just a few years, foreseeing Jamie as a formidable presence. Interrupting Ras's thoughts, Jamie asks why Ras is staring and suggests they proceed into the Guinness Church. Inside, Ricky takes charge, insisting on guiding Jamie and Ras. He explains that the orphanage houses children who have nowhere else to go. Their conversation is interrupted by a woman entering, inquiring about Ricky's whereabouts and the identities of the two accompanying him. Ricky introduces Jamie and Ras, explaining how they saved him from the carriage incident. The woman, a priestess, listens attentively and then asks Ricky if he's injured anywhere. The priestess extends her gratitude to both Jamie and Ras for saving Ricky. Ras modestly downplays their role, stating that as a priest devoted to worshipping Fiyero, it was their duty to intervene. The mention of Fiyero surprises the priestess. Ras goes on to credit Jamie for the majority of the effort in saving Ricky. Jamie then reveals his identity as the son of the local territory lord. Upon hearing this, the priestess remarks that she should have recognized Jamie immediately due to his distinctive emerald-colored hair, but she was taken aback by the word accident. Jamie is puzzled by the priestess's reaction, noting that someone from Hace would have recognized him based on his hair color alone. He senses there might be something the priestess is hiding. Turning to Ras, the priestess inquires if he came to bring Ricky back. Ras responds that he did not. Ras explains that he came here after hearing that the Zenith Church had established its foundation in this territory earlier this year. The priestess, assuming Ras is here for a tour, instructs Ricky to show the young master around and asks Ras to follow her. Jamie senses the priestess's intention to separate him from Ras and wonders if she might be planning to eliminate Ras. He decides that he should create some sort of insurance, just in case. As Jamie leaves with Ricky, he tells Ras that they will be having dinner together with Jamie's parents later, and that he will meet Ras again then. Ras acknowledges Jamie, saying he will see him later. Ricky, clearly anxious, begins to show Jamie around the church. Noticing Ricky's discomfort, Jamie tells him to speak to him as he did before, reassuring him that he doesn't care about formalities and that Ricky should feel free to talk as he wishes. Ricky brightens up at this, grateful for Jamie's understanding, and excitedly tells Jamie that he will show him the whole place. Jamie observes Ricky's excitement and wonders why he seems so eager. Ricky leads Jamie to the room where he and his sister stay. Opening the door, Ricky announces to his sister that he has brought a friend. Anna, hearing this, comes forward to greet Jamie. However, Jamie is taken aback when he sees Anna. Seeing Jamie's reaction, Ricky asks if something is wrong. Jamie, stunned, realizes that Ricky's sister, Anna, possesses the qualities of a saintess, particularly evident in her eyes that radiate with divine power. She appears to Jamie as a messenger of God sent from the heavens, someone who can wield the power of their worshipped deity more naturally than anyone else. Individuals like Anna are endowed with intense divine power within a specific part of their body. Jamie contemplates that Anna's blindness might be due to the overwhelming divine power within her. However, Jamie predicts that once Anna awakens her powers as an adult, she will gain the ability to perceive the entire world through her godly eyes. Jamie foresees a high likelihood that she could become a formidable adversary in the future. Jamie contemplates whether he should eliminate Anna immediately, but dismisses the idea knowing that a cleric would surely be aware of her existence. Realizing the potential danger in acting rashly, Jamie decides against it. Suddenly, Ricky teases Jamie, suggesting he's smitten with Anna. Jamie brushes off Ricky's remark, but Anna playfully hits Ricky with the book she was holding and asks him to read her a book. Meanwhile, Jamie ponders the extent of the divine power Anna possesses. Regardless, Jamie resolves to tread cautiously around these siblings. As Jamie prepares to leave the room, Ricky asks where he's going. Jamie replies that he's heading back, prompting Ricky to insist on accompanying him to the entrance. During their walk, Jamie asks Ricky about his aspirations. Ricky explains that initially, he was content just being with Anna, but after arriving here, he's changed his mind. Now, Ricky desires to be chosen by Zenith and become a priest. Ricky confides in Jamie, revealing that he felt jealous yesterday when a friend from the orphanage was chosen to go to the main church. Jamie is surprised by this revelation, his thoughts immediately turning to the significance of being chosen by the church. Curious about Ricky's past, Jamie asks where Ricky and his sister were before they came to the orphanage. Ricky admits that he was a henchman for Reavers. Upon hearing this, Jamie becomes convinced that Zenith Church is behind the Chimera incident.